Welcome to the PBIS Fundamentals of Learning series, Tier 2, Level of Use and Student Performance Data. Our learning intentions for today, we're going to understand how teams monitor the proportion of students receiving Tier 2 support, examine how Tier 2 intervention data is used to track student progress. We're going to learn how specific skills are taught and reinforced within social, academic, and instructional groups. In this module, we will focus on TFI features 2.10 and 2.11, level of use and student performance data. Level of use involves the team following a written process to track the percent of students participating in Tier 2 supports and ensuring that access is proportionate to the total population, with at least 5% of students receiving Tier 2 supports throughout the school year. And we engage in this process in order to ensure that students are gaining equitable access to this intervention as they need it. Student performance data refers to the Tier 2 team tracking the proportion of students experiencing success. The team also uses Tier 2 intervention outcome data and decision rules for progress monitoring and modification. A score of 2 means that student data is monitored and used at least monthly, with decision rules established to adjust support and to share with our stakeholders. In Module 3 of this series, we reviewed how students can be referred to check in and check out. An example of this is the first box on the slide, some of the decision rules that they put into place. In this module, we will also share how data is used to determine how long students participate in the intervention. And then we can begin to exit. So you'll see exit transition. This is a criterion for being able to fade or exit from check-in, check-out. In the following slides, we'll explain more about the progress monitor. Tier 2 team meetings usually takes approximately 30 minutes, but will likely run longer if we don't do the pre-work. Check-in, check-out facilitators who are checking in and out with students enter data into a spreadsheet similar to the one on the slide. On occasion, there's another staff member in the school who may be designated to enter the data. In advance of the meeting, the data analysis or team lead analyzes this data and sorts student progress. For example, if 6 out of 10 students are making progress, then we don't spend time discussing them at the meeting. The team just agrees that they will continue in check-in, check-out. But we do want to spend time discussing the students who are either not making progress or who are ready to start fading. It's an important part of the intervention is monitoring student progress using data. Students have met their goal with 80% points earned over 4 consecutive weeks, or an upward trend is indicated in the graph shown on the slide. The student's DPR data is entered into a spreadsheet either daily or weekly. The data is then organized into graphs to show Tier 2 team members in order to monitor and evaluate student progress. The team decides whether or not to continue the student plan, or whether to fade or modify or graduate. So these are some systems pieces that we find sometimes when we're implementing Tier 2. Look at those 3 common systems errors and modifications that can be made for each example. So we might say student isn't checking in or checking out. So we might encourage reteaching of the routine. Maybe they can bring a buddy with them, add a surprise reinforcer, visual reminder. Student loses a DPR. Students can get a new DPR. They can reteach the routine and use an organizer like a clipboard or a folder to keep their DPR in. After review of DPRs, it looks like teacher or some teachers aren't filling out the DPR correctly. So that would mean we need to go back and review the routine with the staff. use of an organizer or prompt for the staff, and teach student routine and appropriate ways to ask for feedback. Some guiding questions and sample solutions will be provided in this module as a resource. This can provide your team with additional questions and sample solutions for other systems errors you may encounter. These, along with student data, can drive Tier 2 team discussions and decision-making. Again, a copy of this form will be provided in this webinar. As we think about modifying Tier 2 supports, which we learned about in a previous module, we want to consider function of behavior. Remember, we use function of behavior to identify why a behavior is occurring. Determining the function helps guide any possible modifications that be made to check in, check out. For example, if we know that a student might be motivated by adult attention, we may want to include a midday check-in. If a student might be motivated by task avoidance, we may want to add the opportunity for a break card to be used by the student within the classroom. This is a checklist for modifications to check-in, check-out. Previously, we reflected on function of behavior and how check-in, check-out can be matched to student need. Here are some examples of how check-in, check-out can be modified based on function. We don't want to leave students in check-in, check-out forever. A negative outcome of leaving a student in check-out too long could be that the student may fail to see the relevance of the process. It may become too routine. Tier 2 teams monitor student data and ask questions such as, do we need to modify? Do we need to layer on additional supports? Or is this student ready to fade? Here's a success criteria example shared a few slides back. Ultimately, we want to gradually release students from check-in, check-out. Here's an example of what one team planned to do for 2 students who were fading from the intervention. They were going to let check in less frequently and move student to a self-monitoring so they can do their own behavior charts. And we must remember that we need to talk to the students and parents and teachers about fading during the initial introduction to the intervention. We'll let them know ahead of time. This is based on data and is not a cut and dry ending date. If a student remains successful after fading support and meets the graduation criterion, some schools have an actual graduation celebration. The student could also become a student leader or student mentor, and the graduate could also share their stories of success with other stakeholders. When Tier 1 is not enough, we layer on additional interventions such as check-in, check-out. And if a behavior still does not improve, we know that increased Tier 2 support might include modified check-in, check-out, other Tier 2 interventions at your school, or social academic instructional groups. You may be asking, what are social academic instructional groups? So, the 3 types of skill building groups we call SAIG, S-A-I-G. This is an additional Tier 2 intervention used to teach pro-social, problem-solving, and academic behavior skills. These are perfect ways to further develop social emotional competencies such as self-management, social awareness, and relationship building. So you'll see the pro-social skills. That's an opportunity to reteach replacement behaviors based on the function. We can also problem solve, replacement behaviors for fighting, arguing, conflict resolution skills, anger management skills, self-management, academic behavior skills, replacement behaviors for getting out of the seat, poor study habits, possibly talking during instruction, etc. So we want to replace those with study organizational skills, focus, self-management skills, and responsible decision-making. So on top of the data we collect in check-in, check-out, these types of groups can be used to teach those replacement behaviors and reteach them. We'll go into a little bit about what some of these can look like. Here's some pro-social skills schools have focused on within small group structures. They include identifying qualities students like about themselves, initiating conversations, how to join conversations, how to stay on topic, how to identify body language when a conversation is over, and how to politely end a conversation. Here's an example of scenario cards used with a group to work on responding in different situations. Problem-solving skill groups may include students rate their problem-solving skills using an emoji report sheet, discuss different ways we make a decision, understand and practice how to use iMessages to tell someone how they're feeling and to make a request, and to actually practice problem-solving using different scenarios from situation cards. On the right, there is an example of an iMessage activity that helps to develop self-awareness and express feelings. The last part of these groups that we call SEG groups involve academic behavior skills. These involve exploring personal attitudes towards school, who and what influence our attitudes, reflect on past and present achievements, how they did in previous grades compared to now, and discuss the why for those changes, discuss ideas about how to improve study, attitudes, and work habits. The Tier 2 agenda form shared in this module or shared in Module 2 helps us to organize progress monitoring for the team. We have provided a sample copy as well as a blank copy within this module. So you'll see this Tier 2 meeting, they figure out the number of students and they categorize them according to the progress they're making within check-in, check-out. So for 4 students, we're going to continue to monitor, no action is needed. And then 2 of the students are ready to fade or graduate. 3 students aren't making progress, so we need to adjust or modify check-in, check-out. And then the next group is not responding even after we have modified check-in, check-out and layered on SEG groups. And based on data, the team might decide to refer to SRT for a comprehensive support plan. And then in the meeting, we're going to talk about new students referred for support. So you'll see we don't talk about each student individually. We sort them in groups, and then we take action based on what they need. Thank you for participating in this module. Tier 2 level of use and student performance data.